Imagine your absolute favorite meal. Most likely, this is something that your mom used to make. And if you're like me, when you're really craving that one dish, you'll call up your mom and get the recipe. But now, you have to follow these instructions exactly in order to recreate that perfect dish. This is what happens in the first 3 days of our lives when our cells use a recipe from our moms to start to develop into a human. This recipe comes in the form of thousands of molecules of something called RNA, which are basically little copies of DNA. These RNA molecules contain all the genetic instructions that your cells need to grow into a healthy embryo. But just like you trying to follow your mom's recipe, the cells need to follow these genetic instructions precisely, otherwise pregnancies can fail. What my research tries to understand is how some cells know how to follow the instructions in the RNA while other cells don't. One part of the RNA that we think might be helping the cells is a chemical modification called methylation. This methylation is added to the RNA by our moms, just like her writing a little note on the recipe that she gave us. And this methylation is tiny. It is only 0.005% of the total RNA, which is roughly the size of a few words written out on a piece of paper. So what I want to understand is whether this tiny methylation actually adds to the genetic instructions left in the RNA to help you develop. Or in other words, does your mom's note actually help you cook that dish? Now, ultimately, I would like to study this in humans, but because the embryos develop inside the mom, this is neither ethical nor feasible. So instead, I study this using zebrafish embryos, which rely on the same system of RNA from the mom to develop, but because the embryos grow outside of the mom, I can actually watch them as they grow. Now, to test if methylation is important, I mutated the enzyme that adds it to the RNA, just like erasing the note from the recipe. When I did this, I found that all of the fish without the methylation died, while those that still had the modification were totally healthy. This means that the embryos absolutely need whatever genetic instructions are in that note in order to survive. So what exactly does that note say? Well, by comparing RNA molecules with and without the methylation, I discovered the methylation is telling the cells exactly how much of each gene needs to be expressed. This is just like a note on the recipe that tells you exactly how much of an ingredient to add. And because we're starting to understand how methylation makes sure embryos develop properly, we can begin to use this information to improve reproductive health, to prevent developmental diseases, and to ensure successful pregnancies. But for now, you can go and thank your mom for giving you her RNA and those special notes that you need to start your life.